Hey folks, Uncle Justin here on vacation in this lovely hotel room in, what city are we in?
Bellevue.
Bellevue, Washington, just outside of Seattle. We spent a couple days there, now we're here. Uh, I'm filming an emergency video because we had some new cards from Isle of Madness revealed, and I felt like it would be just not cool if I just missed out on the reveal of 6 brand new cards. So you get these 6 cards by spending 2,000 gold or $10. Which it's a lot, $10 is a lot of money for one card. Let's keep it real here. But 2,000 gold or $10 for a limited time, you can buy Madness Descends or something like that, and it's a one-cost action that then randomly gives you one of 6 cards from Isle of Madness. I'm gonna focus the conversation about the 6 cards and what I think of them. When I get back home, I'll record like a deeper thought about the entire Festival of Madness and how that whole thing has gone as far as marketing and the cost and price point and stuff like that. So, let me show you real quick. There's going to be a link pinned to the top of this video with a picture of all the cards so you can follow along, but I have the cards here on her phone. Oh, that's not those. I'm sorry, that's Sandra. Here are the cards, and I will, like I said, pin the link so we can talk about them. Let's start off with, and this is how in-depth this discussion is going. I have notes here. Let's start out with the willpower card, Fortress Guard. I was on a volcano all day. I went to Mount St. Helens, so I've been a little busy. Fortress Guard's a 3/4 guard for 4. Not a great stat line, but it has an interesting summon ability. It says when you summon it, you can discard a card, and if you do summon a 2/2 Colovian Trooper, that's the 2/2 with guard, it's purple, into the opposite lane that you summoned this creature in. This is really interesting for a couple reasons. First of all, it's important to know it single-handedly triggers Haunted Manor, right? So this is, you ring out on turn 3 Haunted Manor, you lose some tempo. Turn 4, you drop this. And you're thinking yourself probably like, well, discarding a card kind of sucks. I'm getting a 3/4 guard and a 4/4 guard if I have the Haunted Manor out, but like, where's the upside to discarding a card? Well, if you don't have Haunted Manor in play, the tempo swing can be kind of huge. And there are ways to mitigate that, right? You can go the old I have a Goblin Skulk in play and I have lots of cards to pitch kind of route by including stuff like makeshift defenses coming off of the 1/1 willpower guy that generates one of those, which is a card you would already be running in Halalu. But if you're not in Halalu, there are other cards that you could probably willingly pitch in an effort to advance your board more quickly. So you're taking a long-term resource deficit for a short-term tempo gain. But again, I think that the clear advantage there is with Haunted Manor. But that card you pitch doesn't have to just be something cheap. You can also discard something like a Dragon Priest Mask in preparation for a big Master of Arms later. You can discard any number of creatures that you want to resummon with Falkreath Defiler or Blackhorn Necromancer. So there are a lot of ways to offset that, and I think that the key to successfully using this card is offsetting that somehow. But I think it's a pretty interesting card. Next up we have, like I said, I just got him, My Magus. This is a 5/5 guard for 8 in strength with summon. Target opponent discards Tullius' conscription and all our problems are solved, right? Not exactly, right? My Magus is an interesting card. I understand that at face value, the implication here is that this is going to be a great way to get those 12 cost Tullius' conscriptions out of your opponent's hand. But the deck that's running a 5/5 for 8 guard in strength, the deck that can currently play something like that is Ramp Warrior, which already has something like 100% win rate against conscription decks anyway, because you want them to play conscription so you can OTK them with a good unstoppable rage. So that's not exactly what this card is going to end up doing. In effect, I think the card the card that this is going to impact the most is going to be decks that try to win with Journey to Sovngarde, because both in Doomcrag Warrior, unless you hit their red year, and a lot of them don't even run red year, and in Abomination Scout, the only action this will hit if it's in their hand is Journey to Sovngarde, and both those decks kind of require Journey to Sovngarde to win. Doomcrag Warrior less, and it's good because Doomcrag Warrior is much more impacted by this because the game goes much longer, and there's only a small window against Abomination Scout where you can hit Journey to Sovngarde, but it's still kind of a big deal. I do think that simply, if you look at this like a reverse card draw, an 8 Magicka 5/5 guard that makes your opponent discard a card potentially is not as good as Vigilant Giant, an 8/8 guard with Breakthrough for you for 8 that draws you a card. Because it's always going to hit. It's a card in your deck, and you put those there for a reason because you want them. And the breakthrough and larger stats are super relevant too. But My Magus is an interesting one. It's going to randomly screw over a lot of people, and it's going to make me discard Siege Stress Makai a lot, which I am not excited about. I do think the card's cool in that it's evidence that they're introducing new ways to interact with opponents, and interaction is something that I like in this game. But this is not going to solve anybody's Tullius' conscription problem, and might, in fact, kind of like the nerfs did recently, have some unintended consequences against fair, fun decks. So next up we have, make sure I get the order right, Icy Shambles. And Icy Shambles is a really cool one. Icy Shambles is a 4 magic, a 2/3, and intelligence that has summon, deal 2 damage to a creature, and it also says shackle anything that Icy Shambles damages. This may remind you of Water Elemental from Hearthstone. It's a pretty apt comparison, I think, but I think this card's actually a lot better and a lot more flexible. Icy Shambles is a skeleton too, which is relevant for skeleton type stuff. But personally, I plan on trying this out in in Sorcerer with Doom Crag Vampire, because Doom Crag Sorcerer is a deck that I have long championed for no particularly good reason, except that I had alternate art Ash Servants forever ago and I wanted to use them. This card, by the way, is just in every conceivable way better than Ash Servant. But I think the card's good. It's obviously a huge tempo player. I think it's actually probably pretty good in blue-based control as well, although blue-based control is not great if it's not Telvanni. And I do think this card might be experimented with in more traditional Telvanni control builds. But I think the hidden excitement about this card for me is that you can play it alongside the item package like Mace of Encumbrance and the Dres Tormentor that deals damage to things that get shackled. And an additional shackle enabler for that archetype could be pretty cool. Blend it with the item thing, go full pants, and have a good time. This card's really good, and it will see play. Next up, we have Crazed Hunger. 2 Magicka in agility for a 0/2 with charge, +2/+0 on your turn. This card's awesome. This card's really awesome. I think that the circumstances under which most of us are going to see this card is like, oh my god, like we're at 2 and now we're dead. And that's obviously not awesome for the person dying, but going back to the willpower card, this card is obviously great with Haunted Manor. As a 2 Magicka charge creature, it's pretty powerful. But it's also, I think, pretty interesting because I think it's the best removal card in green at 2. I knew green has Finish Off, but Finish Off is very, 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 if it gets the worst top deck in the world, right? This is not necessarily the worst top deck in the world. It doesn't trade with the 2/3 Vampire, Drain, Guard, and Endurance. I'm sorry, I'm slipping right now. I haven't played Legends in a couple days, but and that is a big deal. But it is a pretty strong card, and I like the idea. I've always liked the idea of agility removal being creature based. Cliffstrider is a really bad card, but it's the kind of card that I think that if you jacked up the stats a little bit, could be pretty interesting. And I think this card's going to fill that kind of role. Don't be surprised if this card, in some instances, replaces actually Blackhand Messenger. I know Blackhand Messenger is a great card, and the Drain and the Last Gasp are all part of that. But in a lot of circumstances, I think this is going to be better. And I think if you think of it as removal with upside, as opposed to a beater, you'll be able to put it in more interesting places in your decks. And I think it's a card that we're going to see a lot of going forward. Next we have Dark Seducer. That's me, baby. Dark Seducer is an 8 magic, a 7/7 in endurance with Drain and Guard that says drains on both turns. So, okay, first of all, I gotta say, I think this might be the most powerful epic in Arena. Bloodline Harvester or Bloodline Outcast is the 7/7 that has for 7 that has Drain when something dies is already an Arena bomb, and this is better. In Arena, this card is just god tier, and I mean that literally. I think this card's better than Vivek in Arena. As far as what it does in Constructed, well, obviously, if you land this on the board against an aggro deck that doesn't have a way to silence it, you're going to win that game. Whether or not turn 8 is good enough is kind of debatable. You're probably going to want to ramp into it if this is your late plan for this sort of thing. I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say put a loot on it, but like be prepared for this thing to get removed. Aurora Sentry, the 5/7 that has a sort of similar ability in Willpower, has never seen play. It's considered one of the worst cards in the game, worst legendaries certainly. But I do think that this is significantly better than that, and is a card worth experimenting with. I think that if you could ramp into this, like in a scout package, like a mid-range beat-down ramp scout deck, would love to run something like this. I expect this card to see play, and like I said, I think the most powerful endurance card in Arena, ever printed. Finally, we have a Giant Chicken, which is a 7 magic of 5/5. Last gasp, fill this lane with 1/1 Confused Villagers. And like the Villagers, I was a little confused when I first saw this card, but I started thinking about it more and more, and I know it looks like a meme card, but this card is actually just absolutely tremendous value. Tremendous value. It costs 2 more, but I think in some circumstances this is better than Sorcerer of Revenge. Obviously, not all circumstances, but I think certainly some, it's fair to say. I think the Grand Chicken is one to keep your eye on. I can imagine, a grindy slower mid-range beatdown meta, which we're not in right now, by the way. But I can imagine one where it's like, oh my god, he top deck, Giant Chicken. This is just too much for me. I cannot handle this. I think it's pretty good in Arena. That's obviously bonkers in the zoo lane, but that's that. Finally, it's worth pointing out that the card itself that creates all these things is 1 Magicka and a neutral action. It has a 1 in 5 chance of giving you a colored card, because one of the 6 cards it gives you is neutral, and it's something you're probably going to want to consider running if you're playing a Unite the Houses deck, which is a little scary, and I'll get into this more in a future video, but I'm very glad that Warp Meta already announced that they are banning this and Cheesemancer from their tournaments, because until these things become craftable, and for right now they're just locked behind these limited windows, if I started playing Legends today, I could not put Cheesemancer in a deck that I took to a tournament, and that's not fair. Yes, if I started playing Legends today and I wanted to play in a tournament tomorrow, I'd have to invest probably hundreds of dollars to make that a reality. But to me, there's a difference between the possibility of building a deck and the absolute impossibility of building a deck. And I currently cannot buy Cheesemancer, and in a couple days I'll be unable to buy this card. So I know that there have been comments on the Reddit and stuff that there will be another way to get a hold of these cards in the future. But for right now, I'm really glad these are banned from tournament play. And until they become craftable, if they become craftable, I am going to just say that they absolutely should stay banned in all tournament formats. And aside from I'll get into it more later. That's the 6 cards. I'm super excited about Isles of Madness, and I'm going to go back to my vacation. Thank you to my wife for giving me the opportunity to do this, and we'll see in a minute if I know how to upload videos to YouTube from my phone. See you on the ladder.